So the Knicks just won Game 5. They absolutely dominated in the paint. New York racked up 60 points inside, while Indiana managed only 34. That's nearly double, and it wasn't even close. Karl-Anthony Towns just bulldozed his way through with 24 points and 13 boards. 17 of those points came in the first half, and he didn't even look like he was dealing with a bruised knee. He just kept powering through bodies. In the second quarter alone, while Brunson didn't score at all, Towns kept the lead, stretching with 12 crucial points. That gave the Knicks breathing room, and Indiana never really got close again. Now Brunson, the man's just built for these moments. He went for 32 points. 16 of those came in the third quarter. He was slicing up the paint, knocking down 4 3-pointers, grabbing 5 rebounds, and dropping 5 assists. His third quarter ended with a 4-point play that had the crowd exploding. The Knicks led by as many as 22 points at one stage, and a lot of that swing came from Brunson refusing to let up. The scoring wasn't just the Brunson and Towns show either. Bridges and Josh Hart both put up 12 points. OG added 11. That's a solid spread of contributors, and that kind of balance made it impossible for Indiana to focus their defense on any one guy. Speaking of defense, New York finally locked it down. In Game 4, they gave up 43 points in the first quarter. Game 5, Indiana only managed 45 in the entire first half. The Pacers had been flying, putting up over 130 points twice already in the series, but this time, they barely cracked 90. They were stuck, frozen. Indiana's fast-paced game just never got rolling, and New York's defense deserves all the credit. Let's not ignore the Pacers' struggles, though. Their starting 5 combined for just 37 points. Pascal Siakam was the only one in double digits with 15. He added 6 rebounds and 5 assists, but that's about it. Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, and Tyrese Halliburton couldn't get much going. In fact, Halliburton, who had a monstrous Game 4 with 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 boards, was held to just 8 points. He shot 2 of 7 and looked completely frustrated. Bridges hounded him for most of the game, and it worked. The numbers prove it. Halliburton only contributed to 24% of Indiana's total points in Game 5. In the previous 4 games, 41%. That's a massive drop. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during this playoffs. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Indiana finished the game shooting 40.5% from the field. That's not going to get it done against a Knicks team that came out with that kind of intensity. And don't get me started on turnover. Game 4 was brutal for the Knicks in that department. 17 giveaways leading to 20 points for the Pacers. But Game 5 flipped that script hard. Indiana coughed it up 19 times. New York cashed that in for 20 points. That swing alone makes a huge difference in a playoff game. Now the shooting from deep, honestly, pretty miserable for both squads. The Knicks hit just 8 of 29 from three-point range. That's 27.6%. Indiana wasn't much better, 10 of 30, which is 33.3%, so neither side was lighting it up from outside. But again, the Knicks didn't need to. They dominated where it counted, inside the arc, and especially in the paint. That aggressive drive-first mentality broke Indiana down. Rebounding was another area where the Knicks held it down. Towns grabbed 13, and that kind of control on the glass made sure Indiana didn't get extra chances. Especially with their poor shooting, that rebounding edge shut down any momentum before it could start. But it just wasn't enough. The Knicks didn't let up. They pressured everything. Indiana's ball movement slowed down, their shots stopped falling, and their tempo was completely gone. New York's defense was glued to every drive, every rotation. The hustle was everywhere, boxing out, contesting shots, switching seamlessly. Tom Thibodeau had them locked in. No breakdown, no lapses. You could see how focused they were on making Indiana work for every single possession. That kind of grind made it impossible for Indiana to keep pace, especially with their starting 5 completely out of rhythm. And that's what mattered. Not just who scored, but who got pushed out of their comfort zone. The Knicks dictated that rhythm from the jump. Now they're heading back to Indianapolis with a shot at forcing a Game 7. They've already done what most teams don't, clawed their way back from a 3-1 hole to make it this far. They're trying to become just the 14th team in league history to come back from that kind of deficit. Based on these stats alone, they looked locked in. The energy, the execution, the control, it's all there. And let's be honest, winning this one by 17 points was no accident. They made it happen on both ends, outscoring Indiana by 26 points in the paint, holding them under 100, punishing their turnovers, and making life miserable for their stars. It was all by design. Not flash, not luck, just stats, stacked up in every direction. If they bring this level again, it's going to be a fight in Indianapolis. But if the Knicks want to win the next 2, it's going to start on defense. If the Knicks want to pull this off, and by that, I mean dragging this series to a Game 7 and actually winning it, their defense has to be airtight. No cracks, no freebies, no lazy contest. Game 5 gave them the blueprint. They held Indiana to 94 points. And that wasn't just a coincidence or cold shooting night. It was the result of precise, relentless defense across every possession. They forced 20 turnovers, held the Pacers to 40.5% shooting overall, and completely suffocated their top playmaker. That's the energy they need to bottle and smash open again in Game 6. And then do it again in Game 7. Start with the raw numbers. Indiana's playoff record when they score fewer than 110 points per 100 possessions is 0-4. That's it. They lose. Every single time. When they crack 110, they're 11-0. You can basically predict the outcome from that one number. In Game 5, the Knicks didn't just sneak below that threshold, they dragged Indiana all the way down to a 98 offensive rating. That was Indiana's worst offensive performance of the entire postseason. So the formula is clear. The Knicks defense has to keep them below 110. Ideally, closer to 100 or even below, like they did at home. But doing that on the road in a do-or-die game, yeah, that's going to take more than just effort. That's going to take surgical execution. Let's talk about turnovers, because that's been a consistent weakness for Indiana when they lose. They averaged 13.7 turnovers per game in their losses. The Knicks forced 20 in Game 5 and turned that into 20 points. That's not just extra possessions. That's psychological damage. That's rhythm destruction. They've got to force at least 15 in Game 6. If they don't, Indiana will keep their offensive flow and start carving up open lanes. It's not just about taking the ball, it's about keeping Indiana from feeling like they're in control. That means denying passes, closing out hard, and switching with purpose. The Halliburton factor can't be overstated. His numbers in wins versus losses are night and day. In Pacers wins, he's averaging over 21 points per game, shooting 48% and turning the ball over barely twice per game. In losses, those numbers drop like an elevator with cut cable. 11.5 points, 39% shooting, nearly 4 turnovers. Game 5, just 8 points, 2 of 7 shooting, 6 assists. But again, not game-breaking. Only 2 turnovers, but most of his possessions were wasted because the Knicks just didn't let him operate freely. That was largely because they switched up how they defended him. In Game 4, Brunson defended 29 ball screens. In Game 5, that number dropped to 13. That means Halliburton had fewer mismatches, fewer driving lanes, and fewer options to create. The Knicks funneled him into less efficient spots and closed windows faster. That needs to continue. If Halliburton scores less than 15 and dishes out fewer than 8 assists, the Pacers' offense collapses inward. And then you've got Mitchell Robinson. The rim protection from him was a massive reason Indiana shot only 46% in the paint in Game 5, their third worst mark all season. Robinson doesn't even need to block shots to change the game. His verticality and timing force players to alter shots, delay drives, or just pass out of the paint altogether. Indiana thrives off their paint scoring. If Robinson keeps the paint FG percentage under 48%, Indiana is going to have to rely on outside shots, which haven't exactly been their friend lately. Transition defense is another absolute must. The Pacers lead all playoff teams in transition frequency. Over 22% of their possessions are transition plays, and when they're getting fast break buckets, they're dangerous. In Game 5, they scored 31 points in transition, but in the second half, that number dropped to 12. That drop wasn't random. The Knicks sacrificed offensive rebounds to get back on D. They only grabbed 8 offensive boards in Game 5, compared to their series average of over 12. They made a deliberate choice to stop crashing and start sprinting back. That has to happen again. They can't let Indiana score more than 15 in transition. If the Pacers break 20, the Knicks are in real trouble. And the way to hold them under that, it's not just about running back. It's about taking care of the ball. No live ball turnovers, no lazy passes, no busted plays. Control the tempo, control the game. And when the Pacers miss shots, the Knicks have to secure the rebound. That means maintaining a defensive rebounding rate above 75%. That limits second chances and also keeps transition threats from snowballing. Let's look at the bench, because that's where things can spiral if rotations aren't tight. The Knicks bench in Game 5 posted a +19 net rating in just 17 minutes. That's efficient, productive time. Landry Shamet, DeLon Wright, and Precious didn't have gaudy scoring numbers, but they played physical, stayed disciplined, and made smart switches. Indiana's bench has been a strength. They averaged over 32 points per game in their wins, but in their losses, that drops to 23. Game 5, 23 points, right on cue. In Games 6 and 7, the Knicks need to hold Indiana's bench to under 25 points. That means continued physical defense from the second unit, consistent switching, and denying easy handoffs or dribble penetration. TJ McConnell is a sneaky problem when he gets into the pick and roll. In Indiana's wins, he's more productive, putting up efficient lines and energizing that second unit. In their losses, like Game 5, he's stuck. 9 points per game. Keep that number low, and Indiana loses a huge spark. Here's the part that's maybe the most brutal. History is not kind to teams in the Knicks' position. Since the year 2000, no team down 3-1 in the conference finals has come back to win. That's 0-13. So if they're going to do this, it's going to take more than heart. It's going to take perfection. The good news? They've actually been great on the road this postseason. 6 wins and just 2 losses, with a defensive rating of 108.3. That's 4th best in the playoffs. It means they're not just surviving away from home, they're locking teams down. One of the big tweaks that made a difference in Game 5, moving Towns to power forward while keeping Robinson at center. That combination improved their rim protection and physicality. Opponents are shooting 5.2% worse at the rim with those two on the floor together. That's not just size, that's timing, chemistry, and awareness. Keeping that pairing on the floor for longer stretches in Game 6 and 7 could be the key to choking off those late drives that the Pacers love to rely on when the shot clock is winding down. Contested shots are another piece of the puzzle. The Pacers shot 33.3% on contested threes in their playoff losses. In Game 5, New York contested over half of Indiana's shots. That's the goal. Get a hand up. Close out hard. Force them to shoot over pressure. No more clean, catch-and-shoot looks. No more sagging off the ball. They need to contest over 50% of shots again in Game 6 and replicate that in Game 7. And here's the cold truth. The Pacers aren't going to roll over. They've got shooters. They've got speed. But what they don't have is consistency when they're disrupted early. The Knicks can't let them get comfortable. They can't afford a 10-point deficit in the first quarter and then try to claw back. The defense has to show up from the first whistle. That means denying entry passes, switching fast, boxing out, and keeping energy high. This isn't about saving anything for the fourth quarter. This is about winning every possession like it's the one that decides the series. So to recap, what's absolutely non-negotiable: hold Indiana's offensive rating under 110, force 15 or more turnovers, keep Halliburton under 15 points and 8 assists, hold paint percentage under 48%, limit transition points to 15 or fewer, win the defensive rebounding battle, get over 75%, hold Indiana's bench under 25 points, contest over 50% of Indiana's shots, maintain strong rim protection with Towns and Robinson on the floor. If they hit those benchmarks, not just 1 or 2, but the full package, then the Knicks give themselves a real shot to flip the script and become that 14th team to come back from a 3-1 hole. Anything less, and Indiana walks out with the series. It's not about miracles, it's about metrics. And Game 5 showed they've got the formula. Now they just have to do it twice more without blinking. And the Knicks stars are going to have to step up too. If the Knicks are going to pull off the comeback of the decade, clawing back from a 3-1 series deficit and knocking Indiana out of the Eastern Conference Finals, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns don't just need to be good in Game 6 and 7, they need to be elite. Every possession, every quarter, every mismatch has to be maximized. The Knicks are not sneaking their way to a win. They're going to have to take it, possession by possession, and that starts with these two playing like the entire franchise depends on them. Because it does. Let's start with Brunson, the heartbeat of this team. He's averaging 33 points per game in the series while shooting over 51% from the field and 36% from deep. That's not just good, that's elite playoff production. But here's where it gets real. In games the Knicks have won this postseason, Brunson is putting up 34.5 points on over 54% shooting. In losses, that drops to 31.7 points on just under 49%. The Knicks' entire offensive rhythm hinges on whether or not Brunson is hitting his stride. When he drops 30 or more, they're 8-3. When he doesn't, they're 2-4. That's the whole series right there. In Game 6 and again in Game 7, if they earn it, Brunson needs to hit the 30-point mark again. That's not a goal, it's a minimum. He's not just a scorer though. His ability to control the game with his playmaking and ball security is just as critical. His assist to turnover ratio in wins is nearly 3-1. In losses, it's closer to 1.5. That's a massive swing in possessions. For Game 6, he needs 6 assists minimum with no more than 2 turnovers. That control keeps the Knicks from giving Indiana easy transition buckets, which, as we've already broken down, is one of their most dangerous weapons. And let's not forget about his defense. Yeah, he's 6'1", and he's not locking people up like a defensive anchor. But in Game 5, his effort on Halliburton mattered. He helped reduce Halliburton's ball screen impact, dropped that offensive weapon down to just 8 points, and made him look mortal. Halliburton is a known stat stuffer when he gets going. When he scores 20 or more, Indiana wins 70% of the time. But when he doesn't, they're barely above 500. Brunson's ball pressure, his navigation of screens, and his ability to deny Halliburton space off the dribble can't slip in Game 6. He doesn't have to shut him down completely, just disrupt him enough to keep him from dictating pace. That disruption might be the edge between winning and going home. Now Towns, you want to talk about expectations? Towns is averaging 25.4 points per game in this series on a blistering 51.8% from the field and an even scarier 42.3% from deep. That's not just spacing, that's spacing with muscle. In Knicks wins, his production jumps to 28 points and 12.5 rebounds. In losses, he still produces, but it dips. He averages 23 points and 11 boards in those games. That's a difference maker, and the Knicks need every point, every board, every free throw he can deliver. In Game 5, Towns abused Indiana in the paint. He hit 60% of his shots near the rim and completely outscored the Pacers starters in that area. Just think about that. One man scored more in the paint than 5 of their starters combined. That level of physical dominance isn't optional. It's mandatory. In Game 6, he needs at least 25 points on over 50% shooting and should be hauling in 10 or more rebounds again. That kind of two-way production limits second chance opportunities for Indiana while also forcing their bigs to defend without fouling. But that brings up the fouling problem. Towns is averaging over 4 fouls per game in the series. That's dangerous. He toughed it out in Game 5, staying on the floor and finishing with 24 and 13. But the Pacers are clearly targeting him in pick and roll actions. They're drawing him out to the perimeter and trying to catch him late on contests. He's giving up over 1.1 points per possession when defending the pick and roll as the primary defender. That has to drop. He can't pick up dumb foul. He can't swipe at the ball just because someone drived. He needs to stay vertical, rotate early, and avoid the bait. If he goes to the bench early in either game, it shifts the entire match. The mismatches though, that's where he thrives. Against Miles Turner, Towns is hitting 65% of his shots. That's not a fluke. Turner's drop coverage is not holding up. Towns needs to keep attacking Turner's hips, hitting that mid-range and dragging him out of the lane. That stretches Indiana's defense and gives Brunson more space to operate. Now combine their impact. When both guys are clicking, the Knicks are borderline unstoppable. In their playoff wins, Brunson and Towns combined for over 62 points per game while shooting 55% from the field. In losses, that drops to 54 and change, and the field goal percentage dips to 48%. That may not sound like much, but in the playoffs, a few possessions is everything. Every missed shot that leads to a transition bucket is a dagger. Every wasted possession is a gift to the Pacers. Their clutch stats are insane. In the final 5 minutes of games 1 through 5, Brunson and Towns are shooting 58% from the field. Indiana's clutch stats, 42%. That's a 16% difference in crunch time. If the Knicks keep both stars on the floor in the final frame, they outscore Indiana by over 20 points in the series. That's the entire difference in 2 of the games. It's not just how you start, it's how you close. If both guys play the full fourth in Game 6 and they're within striking distance, the Knicks are going to have the advantage. And yeah, it's going to take everything. Since 2000, teams trailing 3-1 in the conference finals are 0-13. No one has done it. But this isn't about history, it's about metrics. Brunson is one of only 4 players in league history with 10 or more 30.5 assist playoff games in a single postseason. The others? Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's not a bad group. Towns, meanwhile, is posting a true shooting percentage over 64%, his 3rd best ever. He's peaking when it matters most. So what do they need to hit to make it happen? Here's the checklist. Brunson must score 30 or more points, shoot over 50% from the field, hand out at least 6 assists, keep turnovers to 2 or fewer, pressure Halliburton enough to keep him under 20 points. Then Towns must score 25 or more points, shoot over 50% overall, hit the glass for at least 10 rebounds, avoid early fouls, keep punishing Turner in one-on-one situations. Together they must combine for 60 or more points, maintain over 55% true shooting, close strong, own the 4th quarter, don't let efficiency drop under pressure. Because here's what happens if they don't hit these benchmarks. Indiana wins the rebounding battle. Indiana pushes the pace. Halliburton finds his groove. Mathurin comes off the bench and starts torching the second unit. The series ends in 6, and nobody talks about the Knicks' comeback potential. They become another footnote in that long line of teams who got to the brink and just didn't have enough. But if Brunson keeps breaking down the defense and Towns keeps smashing through it, the Knicks have the firepower to flip this thing. The Pacers can't stop both of them at the same time. No team has been able to. The only thing stopping the Knicks at this point is them. It's efficiency, it's execution, it's timing. Brunson and Towns, are the engine and the fuel. They have to burn hot for 2 more games. Because if they do, the Knicks aren't just forcing a Game 7, they're winning it. But what you're looking at now, with the Knicks dragging themselves back into this fight, isn't just a basketball team hanging on. It's a test of control, of tempo, of execution under pressure. And now, after all the shot contests, rotations, second efforts, and rim protection, it comes down to a simple question. Can they do it twice more? They're halfway through a comeback that almost never happens. They've shoved open the door with a win in Game 5, and now they're staring down a chance to not just push this series to the brink, but rip it away. And to do that, everything has to stay razor sharp. No missteps, no off nights, no excuses. It all hinges on discipline. No more letting transition get away from them. No more giving Indiana free lanes or lazy defensive switches. New York has to bring the same ruthless precision they had in Game 5 and make it standard. There's no room for slipping, not now. Every loose ball is theirs. Every off-ball screen must be fought through. Every help rotation must be on time. They've proven they can deliver that. They've shown what happens when every possession is fought for, like it decides the series. Because it does. The team that showed up in Game 5 wasn't just desperate. They were composed. They were brutal. They were intentional. That version of the Knicks didn't wait for Indiana to stumble. They imposed their will. They dictated every angle, every closeout, every transition stop. It wasn't an emotional high. It was cold-blooded execution. And that's the gear they need to lock into now. Not emotionally charged basketball, not hopeful energy, but structured, mature, exacting pressure. Indiana isn't going to hand anything over. Their strengths are no secret. They're fast. They're creative. They share the ball. They love to run and punish breakdown. But if they can't run, they have to work in the half court. And the Knicks have shown that when Indiana is forced into slow developing sets, they struggle. So everything starts with the denial of pace. That means crashing less, balancing more, keeping guards above the free throw line in transition, and cutting off the wings before they can streak down the sideline. It's not flashy, but it's how you shut the tap. You can't overstate how much of the Knicks' success came from simply not giving Indiana momentum. That's what defense does in games like these. It strangles momentum. It doesn't allow for rhythm. It turns run and gun teams into isolation-heavy chucker. The Knicks didn't give up fast break points because they didn't allow them to start. They made every shot Indiana took feel like it came from discomfort. And then there's what happens when that discomfort lingers. Players hesitate, pass up shots, start pressing. That's what Indiana did in Game 5, and that's what the Knicks need to keep pushing them toward. Doubt, frustration, overthinking. When a team starts seeing ghosts on the court, anticipating pressure before it's there, that's when you've won the mental side of the game. That's where New York has the edge. They also have something else most teams don't. 2 stars who can both create and finish. Brunson and Towns aren't just volume scorers. They control the floor. Brunson works the clock and spaces the offense. Towns shifts defenders and forces mismatches. When those two are playing in sync, they pull the defense apart. And when defenses scramble, turnovers follow. That's not a bonus. It's essential, because turnovers are not just extra chances. They're demoralizing, they're exhausting, they break rhythm, and they feed momentum. And that momentum matters most in the fourth. That's where series turn. That's where Game 7 dreams are made or killed. If the Knicks get to the fourth within range, with Brunson and Towns ready to finish, then they're in a position of power. That's where their shooting efficiency and discipline pay off. And let's be honest, they've been sharper in the clutch. That's not subjective. That's been proven over and over across this series. When it tightens up late, New York has gotten cleaner looks, made smarter passes, and defended smarter. Still, this will be a war of attrition. The deeper you get into a playoff series, the less it's about new plays or surprises. Everyone knows the tendencies. Everyone knows the counters. What matters now is who executes with more consistency, who runs their stuff cleaner, who rotates harder, who boxes out just a bit longer. There won't be a magic bullet in Game 6. There won't be some miraculous wrinkle that swings the whole series. What there will be is 48 minutes of a chess match where physicality meets decision making. And here's the bottom line. The Knicks know exactly what it's going to take. They know the margin for error is nothing. They know what their jobs are, and they know they've already shown they can do it. But they can't relax. Not for a second. This isn't the part where you look back and feel good about the comeback so far. This is the part where you put your head down and win 2 more games. The margin is thin, the demands are heavy, but the opportunity is real. Game 5 was a message, not just to Indiana, to everyone. The Knicks aren't done. They're coming for Game 6. And if they bring the same grit, the same precision, and the same refusal to break, then Game 7 won't just be possible. It'll be waiting. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this playoff. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.